Good morning, guys. Welcome to Word Up on this Saturday morning. I am here with Weaver soccer, track, wrestling star Lena Johannson, and she also is headed to Alabama A&M on a soccer scholarship. And most importantly, what really led me to inviting her here today was a couple of weeks ago attended a FCA banquet where she received an award. What was that award you received?
Chia Valley Athlete of the Year for
Athlete
the
of the
female.
Year for Female Athlete of the Year, Chehaw Valley for FCA, and truly a follower of Christ amongst a busy schedule and all the things that she has going on. She keeps Christ first. And so, Lena, we are so glad to have you with us today. Normally, I have a set of questions that I'm going to ask, but as you and I have been sitting here and just talking through your story, your life, I really just feel like we're not going to put a time limit on it. We're not going to put a schedule on it. And we're just going to let our students hear some of the struggles that you faced, but also where God has led you through that. So just tell us a little bit about your senior year and what that's been like as you're preparing for college.
So it's been a little difficult because you're still trying to balance the grades to graduate and get placement, but also like athletically, you're trying to win that fifth state title because it'd be not very exciting if you go all 4 years and can't pull it together your fifth year. And then wrestling is big, but for soccer, like it's been really hard for me because I came in midway through the summer and I was like, I don't want to play college sports. Like I'm done with it. I'm burnt out. And then one of my friends, we played at a club team together. She committed to Alabama A&M, and I saw it on Instagram, and I was like, oh my goodness, like if she can play there, like I can play there. And it was already a school I was interested in, and I was like, well, it's not so much that I want to play college sports. I just want to go play college sports at school I want to go to. So I was like, well, let me see what I can do. So I started emailing the coaches, sending film, and then I got that notification on field level that Alabama A&M followed you, and I was like, okay, this is good, this is good. And then I went to one of their ID camps this fall, and the coach was like, we already gave out our scholarship money, but we have three open goalkeeper spots. And he literally said this almost word for word. You look like you started playing goalkeeper this year, but you're more athletic than every single girl in our conference. So I think I can do something with it. And I was like, okay, thank you. Because, it's like one of those double sided comments. You're just like, okay, well, thanks. And I was like, okay, well, if that's where I want to be. So, and like because of my GPA and ACT, I will get full tuition there. So it was not like I'm losing money there. And then the FAC scholarship ended up giving me a $5,000 scholarship, mostly because I came in there. I was like, hey, I'm a state officer. And they're like, hey, we have a scholarship for you. And so it ended up working out beautifully. And it was not where I wanted to go to school originally. I didn't even. It was a really difficult decision, a lot of prayer, um, but I'm so glad I made that decision because it didn't work out because the coach, I went on there for my official visit and took pictures and everything like that. And he said, hey, I want you to room with this girl. And it ended up being the girl that I had saw commit that I had played on a previous team with. So it just
Wow.
really was a God thing that it all worked out in coordination because it felt right because like everything pulled together. There's a lot of open doors that I didn't think would be open, and it happened your senior year because you go in your senior year and you have these expectations of what's going to happen. I want to get into Auburn. I want to major in this, and then God just comes in and it was like, no, this is where you need to be, and it's Alabama A&M. The reason why I didn't want to go there originally is it's not one of those campuses that's like, oh, there's Christ everywhere. Like I see all the videos and stuff on like YouTube and Instagram, and I'm like, whoa, but it's just like that we think the mission field is all the way in a foreign country, but really it's in our families. It's like on our teams, and it's just like it's not even by the words you say, but it's how you live. Like why is my roommate different than me? Like why does she have this joy? Why does she have this energy? Why does she have this passion that's different than me? And it's like planting seeds, even though you might not ever see the fruit. Like if I live my life for all 4 years glorifying God and not and like the girl notices once and later down the road she's like, oh well, like I had this roommate back in college, like then it's all worth it. Like that decision to go to Alabama A&M was worth it. So it ended up working out. It's out of my comfort zone, absolutely, but I can play the sport that I love so much and major in something I'm excited about and not have to go into $1,000 of student debt. So it works out.
That's awesome. And, I'm really encouraged by the fact that you see that as a mission field because you're right. God had a purpose, He had a plan for lining those things up. It's not coincidence. A lot of times we get caught up in thinking that things just happen by chance. No, God has a plan. And whenever we can keep our mind focused on what God's plan is, seeing where He's at work, then we can join Him. And you're already going with that mindset of God ordained this, God put these things in motion, and now I've got a job to do when I get there. And that coach thinks that your job is to stop balls from going into the goal, and you have that competitive nature, but you're also seeing the piece of what your job is for Christ. And so that's really exciting. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't have a clue that you played soccer, but now that you're talking about it, I do remember hearing that you were going to Alabama A&M on the soccer scholarship. But initially, in my thoughts, I think of Lena as the wrestler, right? I've watched you come up all the way through from, I think, even probably your last year as a youth wrestler, and watching you progress all the way up, and just watching you destroy the guys and then move on into girls and become a four-time state champion there, working on the fifth. And super exciting to watch. But as we sat down talking, you explained to me that's not even your favorite sport, and it's really a struggle. So just talk about a little bit of what the struggle is with wrestling and some of the reasons that I guess that soccer is your favorite.
So this sounds so kind of bad, but the reason why wrestling's not my favorite is it's hard. Like it really, soccer, it's one of those, it's more of a mind game, especially as a goalkeeper. It's like predicting where the ball is going to happen, like looking like you can view the whole field all at once. And so like knowing where the ball is going to happen next. But in wrestling, it's something that demands all of you all at the same time. Like you can win and lose a match based off how your finger placement. And it's like so many key details, and you have to be so aware of all those things. And for me, the hardest thing was like cutting weight and then like struggling with like the body image of like, if it's like almost as if your worth depends on like your weight. You're like, oh, well, if I'm not, for me, it was like I wrestled 140. And if I'm not 140.0, I can't wrestle state tournament. And like, it's just like that, like I've seen so many girls and guys' dreams shattered because they were point one away. Like my 7th grade year at the boys state tournament, I weighed on to the ounce. Like, like you can't breathe wrong. And it's just like, that's so much pressure, and it like changed your body image. It's like, well, if my body was different, like how would this be? And so I think for me, that was honestly one of the hardest things I struggled with. And it's just like more than the wrestling, like it's everything around it. It's like mentally every single practice, I think I thought about quitting. Every single practice. Like I distinctly remember there was times I would be beating girls very badly. Like they didn't want to go all practice, and I was crying. Because I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. Like, because it's just like, it's so draining. And it's just like, Coach Fulmer is like one of the best coaches. And it's just like, one thing about him is he's a really humble person. And so we came into the year, and I think we, as a girls team, won every single duel that was in state. I want to say, like, I don't quote me on this, but like, we basically dominated the state tournament. Like, it was, you could have added, like, I think it was, you could have added the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place teams together, and we still would have beat them, like, all of their points. Like, wow. It was, like, a dominant run. Like, every single one of our girls placed at state, and only 3 out of the 10 didn't win state. And so it was just, like, a dominant run. Like, the whole tournament could have wrestled against us, and we still won. And he always is like, you got to be humble about it. You got to stay humble about it. And I remember one time we lost to Alexandria by maybe a point or two at, like, some Oxford tournament, and Coach Fulmer, the boys had lost really bad to Tallahassee because they dropped in classification, and so he put a really big poster in the wrestling room of the exact details, scoring details for every single match they lost to Tallahassee on Monday, and we were like, that's funny, like imagine losing 63-3, and then the next day we come back and the Alexandria scores in there, and every single day my favorite quote from Coach Fulmer would always be like, you think you've arrived. And it's just like really funny to me because it's just like wrestling is one of those sports where it's like every single thing matters, and like it changes you as a person in a lot of ways because you have to become more conscious of your thoughts and your actions, your feelings. Like truly everything you eat matters, everything you think, how much water you intake, how much sleep you get. Like how much you bathe. Like skin disease can keep you out of the state tournament. Like it demands so much of you, and there's so many times where like I've just been like, oh, I can't do this anymore. Like this is hard, and like when you get good at a sport, everyone's like, well, you just win. Like I've never lost an Alabama high school match to a girl, not one time. And the only time my senior year I don't think I pinned was the second ranked girl from Tennessee. We went to Georgia and we wrestled them, and I only beat her by like 6 or 7 points. And so it's just like you have this pressure that like you're gonna go out there and win, and it's just like, is my worth defined by like will everyone like? Because sometimes you're like, do people like me because I'm good at this? Do people like me because I make good grades? You know, and so it's like all of those like questions of like what is my worth based on? Because it's just like when people think of Lena, what do they think of? Probably wrestling, probably soccer, probably like if I need help with the English paper, like I'm gonna call Lena. And so it's like it becomes like, oh, is my worth this? But it's just like having to remember, and like I remember like warming up for my state tournament because of how they did it, like the call outs. I was like pacing on the mat at the Von Braun Center for like probably 5-10 minutes, and I was sitting there and I always go through like the same 4 wrestling principles every single match. I'm thankful to God for the opportunity to wrestle. I'm aggressive and relentless. I have no fear of losing or making mistakes. That one's the hardest for me. And I never quit. And I was going over that over again. And I was just like reminding myself over and again, like, my worth is not defined by this. My worth is defined by Christ over and over and again. And I went to my coach and was like, Coach, I'm so nervous. I can't do this. And he said, do you not realize, like, the girl that you're about to wrestle is even more nervous, you know? And so it's just like, I would get told, like, do you know who you are? And it's like, you know who you are in Christ more so. Like, you know, like, this is not the end of the world. Like,
I think what you're talking about there, which let me correct one mistake. I said earlier 4 times, but you've already won the fifth now as we're sitting here. So 5-time state champion. But as you were talking through that, I mean, that's a lot like our walk with Christ. It is hard. You know, we accept Christ. He went and died on the cross for us. That is a free gift. But as we move forward, I tell our students all the time, it's going to cost you something.
Yeah,
like sure. It's a hard walk to walk. And Satan doesn't like it. He's trying to attack you. And as you were sitting there talking about everything matters, what you eat, the way you bathe, all these things matter. Well, it's the same way in our walk with Christ. You know, prayer matters. Daily Bible reading matters. The way that we carry ourselves and the choices that we make in temptation, you know, seeing the way out when God provides it. All of those things matter. And just like you said, oftentimes when it gets hard, we want to give up. This past Wednesday night, we referenced the Israelites in Exodus when they reached the Red Sea and the Egyptian army is closing in on them. And, you know, they cry out and they yell at Moses, you know, why'd you lead us out here to die? We could have stayed in Egypt and been doing all the things that we were doing, which was a miserable life for them. But at that moment, it was so hard to keep walking with Christ that they just decided, hey, I'd rather go back to what I know. I'd rather go back to the normal. And so, you know, I think what you're talking about in your time with wrestling is very similar to that. You know, you could have easily went back to who you were before. You could have went back to the days before you were a wrestler, or, you know, just went back to being a normal student like everybody else. And it would have been easier in the moment, yes. But you would have missed out on so many blessings and so many, you know, hey, do I see you as an amazing wrestler? Absolutely. Do I see you as an amazing speaker? Absolutely. But the reason that I've asked you to come here is because I know where you stand with Christ. And so your worth is in Christ, but God has given you these talents to help you get the platform that He wants you to have to share with people the story that you're telling right now. And so I guess, how do you see, looking at what we're talking about, has there ever been a time in your walk with Christ that you feel like you hit that brick wall, just like in wrestling, where you say, hey, I really just want to quit. I'd rather just be a normal person who can live in their sin and do what they want to do and not have to face these challenges of being a Christ follower?
So for me, because of wrestling, it opens like a lot of doors into things that at a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old girl, like, that you should not hear. Like, because, you know, when you become one of the boys on the team, they just openly talk about whatever. And so as a girl, like, that opened up a lot of, like, lust and, like, not just because of everything that was happening around me. It was just like that was that was the common thread. Is this is what guys do. So like, isn't this normal? And so because of that, like yes, wrestling came with a lot of blessings, but yes, it came with stuff like that. And so that's one of those things that's like hard because it's like um easily like if you're addicted to like nicotine, then it's like kind of easy. Like it's easier. It's like it's so obvious. But kind of like what you were saying earlier about like how wrestling demands all of you and like everything matters. It like because of that in your walk with Christ, it's like knowing that like your thoughts matter, your words matter more so than your actions almost because those what's in your heart is going to be the fruit that you produce. And so like it's one of those things. It's like uh, it's a sanctification process. You don't instantly become like Christ, and it's like every single day you have to wake up and decide that I'm gonna walk with Christ today, and I'm gonna rely on His strength, not mine. I'm not gonna white knuckle my way through this. And I was talking to my pastor the other day, and he was like, sometimes the hardest thing for me is like if I see, oh, I'm struggling with this, my mindset, because like I'm an achiever, I'm like, well, they like it's almost like a challenge, like, oh, you think I can't do that? You think I'm not strong enough to like beat them? Like, let me just try harder. And so he's like, since not one of those things you can just like, oh, I'm just gonna like try harder. Like that's not you just can't hold on to it. You just can't hold on to the like you can hold on to the leg for 30 seconds, but like you can't hold on for the rest of your life. And so he's like, you're gonna try really, really hard and you're gonna do good for a couple weeks. And then when you fail, you're gonna be like, I'm worthless, like I can't do this, this is pointless. And so I think so often, like especially when there's nothing to do or like you're bored, like you could struggle with those thoughts a lot more and like struggle through those things. But it's about understanding that like instead of looking at your sin and like, oh, like I just need to try harder or I'm not good enough, it's like looking at God and what God's done and understanding that yes, like you shouldn't go on just like sinning because like, oh, God's grace covered it, like doesn't matter. But it's like because God's grace like covered that, like you aren't controlled by that. Like you died to sin when Christ died to it, and you'll be raised to life with Christ. And it's like because of that, your heart should overflow. Like when you're filling your mind through music, especially, I think that's the biggest thing for me. Is like when you're filling your heart with God's words and like gospel truths and reminding yourself of the gospel, it changes your thoughts, which changes your words, which changes your actions. And it's like one of the things in wrestling, it's like my coach always would say, control what you can control. And then, which is really funny because my soccer coach in turn would be like, control what you can control. What can you control? Your attitude and your effort. So what can you control? Your spiritual life, what you think about, what actions you do. Because it's like so often I think as Christians we're trying to get like, oh, let me stop doing the wrong actions, but we don't realize that the actions aren't where it starts. It starts with our mind. It's like, are we entertaining those thoughts? It's like, well, like especially one of the things like if you're struggling with like jealousy or gossip, like it's like it's not like a trying to game of like how close can I get to the sin with like actually sinning. Like in the Bible, like it talks about like if you even think of a woman in a lustful way, like you've already sinned, you've already committed adultery, and so it's just like knowing that like it's that small and like you can't achieve it, like you really can't, you can't just stop. But
Sure.
it's about looking to Christ and being like, Christ, I failed, and not like what my pastor was saying. Actually, my old youth pastor was saying, he's like, if you're to keep looking back your sin, you're like, oh, I can't believe I did it. I can't believe that you're gonna do it again. You're gonna do it again because you're just like, well, like I'm a failure. Like I might as well just keep failing. But it's like instead of looking at your sin, looking at Christ.
And so one of the quotes that I've heard that goes right along with what you're saying is we have to control our thoughts. Our thoughts create an action. Our action creates a habit. Our habit is a character, and our character becomes our life. It all starts with a thought. Your life starts with a thought. And when I first gave my life to Christ, I was 28 years old, and one of the first things that God put on my heart was change the music I was listening
Mm-hmm.
to.
Yeah.
I went from listening to secular music to listening to gospel centered, Christian music all the time. And it really did change my day. It gave me hope. It gave me peace. It gave me power to go throughout the day. And so, in no means am I saying that, hey, if you listen to secular music, you're going to hell, but it definitely
It changes
changes
it.
your day in the way that you're thinking and what's in your mind.
And like I think for me, a lot of the ways that I think wrestling was detrimental in that is if you go to any wrestling club or really any wrestling room, um, the music is outlandish because it's controlled by probably 20, 30-year-old guys that have no idea, and it's a room full of guys, and so it's like that's the type of music that they want to listen to, so that's what you're going to listen to. So especially when you're training 8, 10, 12 hours a week and you're listening to the same, like I think in my wrestling club they have these same 3 playlists, like it's actually terrible, and you listen to the same songs over and over again, so like you'll just be going about your day and those lyrics are what's going to pop up in your brain, and like when certain words can trigger like certain lyrics, like even like back to your childhood. So it's just like knowing that music does really impact you a lot, and one of the best things that I found helpful is like instead of being like I'm just not gonna listen to rap altogether, it's like let me listen to Christian rap, because it is like the best way to explain it is like if you're like addicted to coke, it's like I know a lot of people are addicted to coke, like I get that, like I understand that, but it's like instead of just being like okay I'm just gonna drink water, like transitioning I'm just gonna drink sparkling water, I'm just gonna drink like like changing it, like because um that's like probably been the most helpful thing, because yeah, like music really does, and it's designed that way. Like God designed it as a beautiful and glorifying thing to Him, and like Satan always does, he takes things that are beautiful, like even sex. Like he takes things that are beautiful, and he's like, I'm just gonna destroy it, and that's what he does. Like he takes things, and it makes the water so muddy because it's just like music's just music. Like I'm not even listening to it, but it's almost worse when you're like subconsciously listening to it, and so it's like Satan really destroys everything. So it's like you have to be so conscious of music, and I think that's one of the big things that's like a make it or break it.
That's awesome. Yes, you're so right. Now, one other thing that I want our listeners to hear, just talk a little bit about your background. So I didn't realize until we were talking earlier that you were actually homeschooled until the ninth grade. I think seventh and eighth grade you participated in the Tim Tebow rule where you were homeschooled but still competed in athletics. And then in the ninth grade you decided to transition into the public school. And so, kind of just talk about that transition and some of the struggles and some of the reasons you wanted to do that.
So, the best way, one of my guy friends said this to me, but he said, boys are dumb and girls are mean. And, like, that's the best way to put middle school girls. Like, it's just, you as a middle school girl, it's like if you push someone to the outside, you then become the inside. And, like, that's the mindset. It's very clicky. And if you're not in the clique, then you feel lonely and you'll do anything to be in the clique. And going into ninth grade, the only people I knew were guys on the wrestling team, because the soccer team, I was only seventh grader. I was only a seventh or eighth grader. And so I was also on a team with like juniors and seniors, which wasn't good either. But besides the point. And so when I got to ninth grade, the only girls I knew were the girls I played volleyball with in seventh and eighth grade. And so let's just say they were the in girls. They were the in girls, but I never really fit in with them. Even during the volleyball team, I was always the girl on the bench. I was always the girl that like was never in the in groups. They've been together since kindergarten. That's the one thing about like small towns. They've all been together since kindergarten. And so then I come in and I come into class and I'm like, okay, like my goal is to beat you athletically. My goal is to beat you academically. And people don't take too kindly to that. Like that's not really like, oh, we really like this girl. And so I really, really, really struggled with trying to fit in. And I didn't understand. I was like, why am I not good enough to fit in? Like, what's wrong with me? And it's more so like when you're trying and you're striving to fit in, it's like maybe the answer is like, like in a Christian walk, it's so often very lonely, but it's like knowing that this is not your forever home. This is just a stop on the road. And so,
That's good.
just like it was really difficult for me. Like I remember one of the girls who I'm actually now really good friends with. She was kind of getting pushed to the outside of the group. And so because of it, she was like, well, let me just like push Lena out really hard because I'm like, I'm better than Lena. So like, she's really on the outside. And, so I got tired of it one day and, I made a scene in the lunchroom, not my best moment, but the teachers were like, she's going through it. And so actually the other girl got in trouble, even though I was the one that kind of caused the scene. And we weren't allowed to go in the same lunch wave anymore. It was like really bad. And so it was ended up being okay with me because I would just go to the library and study over lunch because it was so bad, because it's just like I didn't want to face it. And that's actually when I became really into like FCCLA and facts, is because like my facts class, my facts teacher was like the one time in my day where like I was away from these girls because it's like 9th through 12th grade instead of just like freshmen. And like there was like some of my friends that were like in older grades in that class, and she was also like, she was like, hey, there's this club, do you want to be in it? And I was like, yeah, I want to run for president. And she was like, all right now, like, no, we can't do that. But she was always like, I believe in you. And like later down the road, I went to the state conference and I saw these like state officers, and she's like, do you want to do that? And I was like, yes, absolutely. And she always believed in me, and so it was just like that breath of fresh air in the day. And it's just like knowing that like that's not my forever home, and it did get better. Like it did in fact get better when I stopped trying. Honestly, like I think they always say this about guys, but like when you stop trying, when you stop looking, it usually comes to you.
Yep.
And like because it's just like when when you are trying, you're desperate for anything. You're desperate for any friendship. You're desperate for any relationship, and you're not waiting on God's timing, because like so often in my life I was heartbroken over like this situation, this guy, this friendship. But it ended up being like, I look back and I'm like, wow, like God really was protecting me from that. Like I honestly wish he would have like brought me out of that sooner. At the time, like I hated it. I cried over it, you know? And so it's just like, I didn't know best, and I don't know best. And I don't know best what about college. I don't know best what church to go to in college, you know? So it's like about trusting Christ. And like my wrestling coach is always like, trust the process, surrender the outcomes. Like do the next right thing. And like if that means like, that's how like I balance a busy schedule. It's just like if I'm studying for a class, I can't worry about my game tomorrow, you know, because it's like you're not being productive. You have to focus on the task at hand and being excellent at it and mastering it. And then when you leave that in an hour and then focus on practice, you know. So it's just like about knowing that this is not your forever home, and it does get better, and it's either those doors are opened or you're being protected from something and you don't even realize it, because we don't know our best good. We just like, it's like let's talk about like God being a father, and it's like so often we're just like hey dad, I want candy, I want McDonald's today, and it's just like, no, you can't have McDonald's. And you're like, wow, he hates me, like he just doesn't want me to be happy. But like in turn he doesn't see like the medical, like my dad's a doctor, and he's always like, you know what's in that, like the chemicals, and I'm like, oh well. You know, I'm still gonna eat it. But it's just like, you know, he has your best interest in mind, and you don't even think about it.
That's right. And he knows what's coming next. And one thing that I just picked up on there is the importance of your facts teacher and what she meant in your life. And now I think that's what you're going to school for,
Yes.
correct?
Yes, sir.
And so, you know, I think about those challenges, and nobody wants to go through that. You know, the pain and the suffering that you felt, and the mental anguish, and just trying to fit in and trying to make those things happen. But again, just like you going to Alabama A&M, God put those pieces together for a reason. And had you stayed a homeschool student, had you gotten to Weaver and said, this is too much, I can't get along with these middle school girls, hey, mom, dad, I'm ready to go back to homeschool. I can play the sport, let me go back home, let me do it the way I was doing it. You would have missed out on the opportunity for her, your facts teacher, to be able to invest in your life, for you to see that that's what you want to do one day. You would have changed the whole trajectory of your life. And what you don't know yet is whenever you take that first job, there will be a student just like you that you're going to get to invest in, that will come to know Christ because you're in that classroom, that maybe that student doesn't have the mental toughness that you did, that they get to the place that, hey, I can't just go back to being a homeschool student, but I just want to quit life altogether.
Yeah.
And because they're in your class, because you didn't go back to the norm, because you didn't abandon what God had for you, that you're going to get to reach that student. I mean, there's so many things coming that God has lined up that you just don't even know.
And it's like, the way I think about it, it's just like, whenever God gives you talents, like you always hear the parable about the talents, it's just like, well, why did God give that guy 5 talents and me only 2? And it's like, why are you worried about that guy's talents when you aren't using yours? And like for me, so often, like if you know anything about me, I am terrible at singing. I cannot play an instrument. Like it's really, really bad. And so I've always been like, I can't even serve the church. I'm not musically inclined. Like I can't get up there and sing. You don't want to listen to me sing. I probably distract your service. And it's just like, but that's just not where God has like talent, like given me my gifts and my talents. And it's just like I look at my life, and one time in our church we were talking about like, what is God, how has God gifted you to serve the church? And it's just like I looked at my life, and it's like, what is something I'm passionate about? Sports. and working with kids. Like, those are the two things that, like, I just love. Like, I, like, so often, like, a lot of the stuff I do volunteer, like, with FCA or, like, working in children's ministry, it's because I love it. Like, being honest, like, it's just because I just really love it. And it's just because, like, so often I see myself in that a lot. Like, I see myself as being the girl in, like, the group who can't fit in. Like, the girl, like, his, last summer, I was at an FCA wrestling camp, which is actually where I gave my life to Christ a bunch of years ago. But I was at FCA wrestling camp, and I ended up coming back as a huddle leader. There was a lot of confusion because they thought, because I was the girl who was over the huddle leader, she was my huddle leader when I gave my life to Christ. So she thought I was in college. And I was like, so I show up, and they're like, you're not who we thought you were, basically. And I was like, okay, so I came down here a day early to get huddle leader training, and you're telling me you don't want me. And he's like, well, since you came all this way, like, we can make you a junior huddle leader. And I was like, it's okay, like, I'm fine with it. And I mean, I get a single room, so, there is benefits to it. And so I ended up going in there, and the girl I was huddle leader with, she ended up, was like kind of like related or something to a bunch of the girls in the group. So she kind of struggled with like incorporating all the girls together. And so often, like, she would just be like, hey, Lena, can you lead this Bible study? Like, can you basically do all the huddle leader things? And so I was able to, like, then, like, lead all those, and it was fill my heart so much. But it was just, like, because I could see, like, talking to the girls, because, like, I think it's late at night, all the secrets get told, all the things come out, and it's just, like, going, like, because we would, like, all hang out together in, like, the pod center or whatever, and, like, one night they were just, like, all opening to me up about so much hard stuff in their lives, and I was just, like, able to be, like, yes, like, I understand what you're talking about, like, because you connect with them on a sports level, and so then you can connect with them on a spiritual level, and, like, the same thing working with kids, it's just, like, I don't mind changing a few poopy diapers. Like, it's not the end of the world, And so it's just, like, I know that God's gifted me in those two areas. And so being a teacher, I am going to make very little money. And people make sure people remind me very often. But it's just, like, it's not really about, like, coaching supplements or, like, anything like that. It's, like, this is not a forever home. And the way I think about it is, if Christ was to come next year, am I living on mission? Did I answer the call? And if I was to, for example, like, it's not like I'm not smart enough to, like, oh, like, let me go be a doctor. It's just, like, if God's gifted you with something, then you are being disobedient and unfaithful by not answering that call. And, like, maybe that call is to go to Alaska and be a missionary. And that's uncomfortable. But it's also, like, uncomfortable, not being able to go on the vacation every summer, And so it's, like, what are you having to sacrifice to answer that call, like, to live on mission? And so, like, it's just, like, I know, like, kind of like how you were getting onto, like, it's, like, using your talents and, like, yes, God's gifted me athletically. Like, I know that because the track, like, I show up and I go to practice, like, once a month. And they're like, hey, like, do you want to be on the red light team? Hey, like, you qualified for state in 3 events. And it's just, like, do I know, like, there are girls, like, I almost feel bad sometimes because there's, like, girls on the team that have put more time in and that are there every single day working. And I just come in and I'm like, okay, like, I'm taking your spot. Oh, I'm faster than you. Oh, sorry, you can't go to sectionals, And it's, like, one of those things where it's, like, yeah, it's not unfair. Like, when the girl was complaining about it because I took her spot on the relay team, and she was not happy about that. And I almost felt bad because it was just, like, she had worked at this all winter, all spring. And for a week before sectionals, for them to be, like, we can only run 52s when Lena's on the team, then, like, like, I feel almost, and it's, like, God's given me the athletic talent that I can go in and I can do that, but I can go to a college and not have had the training that all the girls, like, all the girls are going to be way technically better than me. Like, I'm very aware of that. But it's just, like, knowing that, like, God has given me gifts athletically and, like, using that as a platform to the gospel, like, through FCA especially, or, like, through leading, like, huddles at our school, or even, like, working with kids and, like, like, in children's ministry, or, like, even being able to minister with girls my own age. And I think going to a public school is actually really a blessing in that, because, like, there were so many girls that are hurting in my school, like, guys too, because, like, in fact, one day we did a thing where we were talking about different types of family, like, do you have 2 parents, do you have 1 parent, where you're not, like, going through that. And I went into my class of maybe 15, 20 people, and I was one of 3 people who had both their parents. Wow. And it's just, like, you at a private school, yes, that's true, but not to the same school. Like, I have a girl in my class who, she leaves school and she works at Zaxby's basically as many hours as she's legally allowed to, because if she doesn't, there's no food on the table tomorrow, And It's, like, there are so many girls that are hurting, and like I have the ability because of like my athletic platform or because of sports to like, Lena's like, doing the morning announcements. Like Lena knows a thing or two about that. Lena knows about that. And it's like because of that, like when people respect you for one thing, like if you look at like social media influencers, like why do we care what outfits they think are cute? Why do we care what matters to them? And like it's because they're famous. It's because they're good at football. Like we think that they know what chips are best because they play football. Like if you think about it, it's kind of stupid almost. Like,
Yep.
and so it's just like honestly, it's sometimes the same thing for me. Like, why are you asking me for boy advice? Because I'm your captain. Like, like that's really that then qualifies me to know how to get out of the situation. And it's like, but like, isn't that a blessing? And it's like, my mom always talks about like, are you using your influence for good? And it's like I can sit there and be like, it's not that bad. Like you can do that, and like as long as you don't get pregnant, there's no biggie. But it's like, or you can be like, your worth is not defined by that. Like you have a purpose and a plan, and that's not what God's used that for, And it's like because of that talent, I'm then able to use that. And like, no, I will never be on stage singing, like ever. Like, but that's not where God has called me to be. God's called me to be on the playing field or in the classroom, like being like, hey, like, do you not know that your worth is found in Christ and not this, and not who in the class likes you, what group you're in.
We're all equipped differently.
Very differently.
We all have different talents, but we are called to use those talents.
Yes, sir.
And I was actually listening to a sermon this morning where the pastor was talking about quit comparing yourself to others and just follow me. Just follow Christ. With what he's gifted you with, you don't have to be like anybody else. Just follow Christ. And, I heard you talk about, you could be a doctor. And I have no idea what the answer is coming to this question, but with your dad being a doctor, have there been those pressures in the home that, hey, you need to go and you need to follow my path? What does that look like in your home?
So this is actually really wild, and my mom does not like people to know because she's probably one of the most humble people I know, but most people don't know my mom went to Princeton, and she's a stay-at-home mom.
Wow.
Like, my mom was a professor, and now she's a stay-at-home mom. And so it's like, you think about it, and it's just like, what? And the way she always answers it when people are like, because I think, like, sometimes, like, you have to do, like, the interviews for, like, if you want to get into, like, Ivy League schools, you have to interview with certain people. And so, like, I think at one point, like, if you wanted to interview in, like, the County County area, you had to talk to my mom. Like, you had to go through the interview questions with you and, like, get back to Princeton. And so it's just, like, so often it's, like, I know people, like, whenever they find out, like, why are you not going to Ivy League school? Like, why can't you, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it's, like, because my mom valued something different. Because my mom was, like, being able to have a bigger house, a nicer car, like, all these things does not matter as much as influencing you for Christ. Being able to read the scriptures with you every single morning. Being able, like, that does not matter to me as much as being a good wife and being able to run our home well. Like, and I think because of who she is as a person, she's instilled to me that, like, yes, having a career matters. Like, yes, you need, if you're intelligent and you're smart, use those gifts for God. Like, if you have a STEM brain, by all means, make the best roads ever. But it's like, if God has gifted you in a certain way, and I think especially as women, we feel like, I think biblical womanhood is so complicated in modern day because it's just like, you want to be like, oh, like, I'm, like, it because I work at home, like, does that mean I'm less than? But it's like, no, like, God gave men and women different roles, and that is so beautiful. And so my parents not once have been like, I wish you were a doctor or anything like that. Like, my dad has always been the type of person that's like, do you want to wrestle? Okay, I'm signing up for wrestling camp this weekend. Like, what do you want to do? And, like, I will help you be the best at it. And they're like that about facts. They're like, well, if you want to go to facts, here are the schools. Like, he researched all the colleges in the United States that had facts, and then he made a list of the Christian colleges. Like, and so it's like, why would you want your daughter to, like, go into something she's not going to make a lot of money? But it's like, because if God's given her gifting and calling, she needs to follow it, even if that's uncomfortable. And so, like, because of that, like, my parents have never pressured me into, like, going into a particular career or anything, just wherever, like, I feel God's call. But, like, oh my goodness, all the comments, like, oh, why aren't you a doctor like your dad? Like, I think that more so was like my brother, because it's a guy, it's a lot more pressure, and he's actually going into, like, industrial design or something, which is, like, a pretty cool job. But it's just like, my parents have never pressured me, but, like, I know other people definitely have.
Yeah. That really is impressive. And we've got a lot of parents that listen to this too, and I think that is an awesome testimony, because knowing that you have the smarts, knowing that you got the brain to be able to do it. Hey, why don't we take, yeah, God's gifted you with kids, why don't we go be a pediatrician? It would be easy for them to fall into that and to put that pressure. But I did not know that about your mother.
Yeah, she doesn't like people knowing. So,
but the
sorry,
fact
Mom.
that she's already made that decision on her own, like she's chosen, I'm going to do what God's called me to do, and not worry about the money, not worry about the things, not worry about what this world says. So that all goes back to students. If you're listening, last Wednesday we talked about not being normal. That's not normal.
Yeah.
That is not normal what your mom has done.
Yes.
And your mom has set an example that's not normal for you, to tell you it's okay to not be normal.
Yes, absolutely.
And we as followers of Christ have got to be okay not being normal, not being like this world. And that is so hard to do. And even when we can do it for a brief moment,
yes,
it's hard not to go back to normal, when things get tough. And so, man, that is such a powerful testimony there. And I'm thankful that our students get to hear this. I had no idea where this interview would go, but man, there's so much power, so much packed in there. And we support you. We're so proud of you. We want to be a part of the things that you do going forward. I know that this right here, this interview alone, you just pulling back the veil a little bit to talk about, hey, everybody sees me as a state champion, but everything in life hadn't been perfect. And the reason that I have the peace and the joy that I have is because I've chosen to make the hard decisions, because God has called me to it, that He's put those things in place. And I hope that, out of the hundreds of students that'll listen to this, that just one, if it's just one that says, you know what, she can do it, she's done it, she's been successful at it, I don't have to be like this world. I can go and do what God has equipped me to do, what He has called me to do, and the rest of it doesn't matter. That's exactly the message that we want for our students today. So, is there anything else, any final words you want to leave with our students that are listening about the maybe some of the things that they're going to face as they come up through high school, whatever's on your heart that God would have you to share with them?
Two things that I would say is, the first thing is, wherever God calls, He's going to provide. And so if you feel like God's calling you to a particular field or a particular sport, it's sinful to, like, there's like admission and there's like transgression. It's like there's two different things. It's like it's openly like disobeying God's rule, and like, or like not doing what He's called you. Those are both disobedience. And so, like, if like God's called me to do something and it's like really, really uncomfortable, like if it's to walk to your youth pastor, like, hey, I wanted to go be in the band on Wednesday nights, like, you are being sinful not answering that call, and so just knowing that. And then the second thing that I would like to leave students with is, like, know that sports don't define your worth, grades don't define your worth, who you're friends with, who you're dating, that doesn't define your worth. Like, I think actually for a girl it's really hard, because you go on Instagram and you're just like, oh, these girls, like, they seem to have it all together. They seem to be in like what's that DD? I think that's like the high school sorority around here. It's like,
Yeah.
And I remember like being like, oh my gosh, like, they seem to have so many friends. They seem to be so successful. Like, they seem to like have it all together. But it's like, no, be content with what God's gifted you with, like what God has given you, and like being focused on the mission, living on mission, and knowing that like you are not good enough, but Christ is good enough, and like Christ in you is enough. And like living through that and knowing that your worth is not defined by anything other than what Christ did for you on the cross. So like living in that, and like when you fail, looking at Christ. When you're succeeding, thanking Christ. And it's not a public display. It doesn't mean like when you win a match, like you're like making this whole Christ scene pointing to the sky. Like, no, like, that's not what it means. It's, are you living your, like, on the days leading up to the state tournament? How are you acting when you're cutting weight? Like, were you glorifying God? And it's like, it's not about the flashy moments. It's about the mundane and being faithful to God in the little that He's gifted you with.
That is so awesome. thank you so much for being with us this morning, and we are praying for you as you go forward. And we look forward to hearing from you again about all the amazing things that have happened in college, and you're just a few weeks away from graduation.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations
Thank
on
you.
salutatorian and all the things that God is going to use you for. And me, as a board member here in Calhoun County, I look forward to the day that you come back home and you apply for one of those
Yes.
family and
Yes.
consumer science jobs. So we're going to have to make sure that we hold a spot for whenever
Yes,
you come
sir.
back. So thank you for being with us. We appreciate you, and continue to follow Christ wherever he leads.